You led the company through M&A.
The best moment to sell a company is when you don't need to sell a company. I had, let's say, a very good education on paper. But if I look back, no one taught me about creating my own wealth, about, okay, how do I invest for myself? 1 month after I took the role, the pandemic came. I think, leaders anticipate, losers follow.
Hello, Sanja.
Hello, Violetta, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining this podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you. I mean, first of all, you are like one of the very, very few female in the industry, but also a CEO and leads in the company. I mean, this is incredible. And so you're co-founder and CEO of Utrust, the Web3 payment system. So that's we will talk a little bit about as well. That was also raised 21 million in ICO, and it was acquired last year by MultiverseX group, right?
Correct.
And you also have been in many different like rankings, like top 100 women of the future, right? And also top 100 of people in crypto and blockchain, according to the Cointelegraph. I mean, this is like awesome. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's my pleasure to be here. I really love, chatting with amazing women like you. So we're gonna have a great time.
Yeah, thank you so much. So first of all, I would like just to start with your own story because I think this is incredible one. And yeah, tell me a little bit more about your story background. And I know that you're also from Eastern Europe, like me, by the way. So yeah, tell a little bit more.
Yeah, so I was actually born in Sarajevo, Bosnia. And as you can imagine, like the country went through a huge war. I was fortunate enough that 1 year before the war came, my dad got a job in Italy, so we moved beforehand. I was very little, I was like 6 or 7. But I do remember like the horror of losing everything, of like not being able to get in touch with family members, having our bank accounts locked, losing all the real estate for, the government failure and the banking failure that happened after the war started. And for that reason, like I was always passionate about financial inclusion and, especially helping people in war countries, helping marginalized people to have access to wealth. My family was not very financially literate, but I was lucky enough to really go to a very good university, and I had, let's say, a very good education on paper. But if I look back, no one taught me about creating my own wealth, about, okay, how do I invest for myself? And also no one teach me the path that I could be an entrepreneur as well. It was all about, at least for me, like at the time, it was all about you can have a career in consulting, in investment banking, in a high-tech company, and that's it for you. Um, I think in the States it is a bit different, but I think, in Europe, where I went to university, there was a lot of push to like going to the traditional path. So it took me many years, like it took me many years to realize what I actually wanted to do. And I do not regret anything. My path has been amazing. I worked in companies like Vodafone and eBay and PayPal for almost a decade,
Yeah,
before becoming an entrepreneur.
amazing.
So I think, everything happens for a reason. And my background contributed to like fueling my path and where I am now. Yeah.
Wow, that's I think it's a very interesting also story. And how did you learn about blockchain and crypto space?
So it started for me in 2016. So I was investing in cryptocurrency. Like many people, I entered as an investor. and speculatively buying some Bitcoin at first. And then basically what happened is in 2017, after many years in e-commerce, I went to work at PayPal. And my team was developing the payment solution for marketplaces. And that's where really like I had, the idea of how do we use blockchain to settle payments, to manage cross-border trade in a better way. And I started to be very, very passionate and reading a lot about it on my own. So I think, the true spark for technology was driven by the problem that I saw in traditional payments. And that's what fueled my interest. But I was already in the industry, let's say, as a small investor from 2016.
Awesome, awesome. How did you end up in Utrust? How did you meet the team and the startup and
Yeah, it's a very interesting story actually, because as I said before, I saw how the payment system was broken in like traditional payments, let's say, because I consider PayPal and like online processors still like a traditional payment gateway, because in the end they act like a bank. And basically what my team was doing, we were selling the marketplace payment solution to all the marketplaces in the UK, except eBay, because PayPal separated from eBay. So it was a new product that we were developing, and it was very exciting. However, we were not able to tell our clients how much they would end up paying at the end of the month in fees, because of international trade and cross-border trade. And as you can imagine, like marketplaces have 70-80% of their volumes in cross-border trade, if they are selling internationally. So it was really a painful process, and it was really difficult to sell the payment platform to our clients. And therefore, as I said, like I wanted to research how blockchain could help us to provide lower fees, to settle internationally in a lower time. And long story short, I'm talking about early 2018. Like this was very early in the space, and especially for PayPal Europe, they were very reluctant. Not only reluctant, they didn't want to touch anything that had to do with blockchain. And therefore, like in my research, I studied a lot of companies that were already, let's say, either researching or providing a similar service, so using blockchain for payments. And I came across a white paper. So there was nothing, there was just a white paper written by my co-founder, Nuno and Philippe. And it talked about, the vision of Utrust, the initial vision of Utrust, and how do we use blockchain to settle payments, to provide a transparent framework, to apply a very low cost to fees. And I was very impressed. And so I reached out to them on LinkedIn, like a very simple message, and we started talking. And I remember we met then in person, like Nuno flew to meet me for a lunch, and we really, fell in love with the idea of working together. So that's how it all started. Like it was, it was very random, and
amazing?
as I like to say, it's like the universe aligned into finding each other and building together.
Wow, that is an incredible story. So you just met, and after one lunch, you decided to work together.
Yeah, we decided to work together. So at the beginning, it was not a full-time, okay, let's work together from day one. But I observed the company, I supported the company, and for a few months, and then I decided to leave my corporate job and embark in this entrepreneurial experience. And at the time, like today is very normal to see people moving from Web2 large companies into Web3. But at the time in 2018, it was very rare. And people thought I lost my mind completely.
Yeah, I can imagine. And how did you really become the CEO? So you led the company for a couple of years right now, right? So how is it your experience?
Yeah. So it's been 3.5 years. So I took the role late 2019, I believe. And I took the role in a time where COVID came, and a lot of things happened that contributed in the end for us to be where we are right now. But it was not a smooth path. I think, it coincided to recreating the company culture, putting the company remotely, like redefining our vision. Because when we launched our product at the beginning, as many founders, like we had this idea that everyone will use our product, but it was very early in the stage. So a payment gateway that settles crypto to fiat still had niche applications. So we needed to really look into who's really the customer that is going to use our platform right now. Not in 10 years, but like where is utility right now and for whom? And therefore, we needed to pivot a bit and launch several new features and redefine the way we go into the niches that are interesting for us. So it was definitely a great experience for me because we redefined everything. And in one moment we were like, okay, does it even make sense for the company to exist? Because we were not clear on who was our ideal customer, why were they using us, and then from there going into real adoption and product market fit was an amazing experience.
And how for you it was personally? Like, I mean, like you are really like one of few CEOs in the space. I don't know actually so many in Web3 as well because it's like even less women. So how is it for you personally? Like, I mean, you don't learn really like how to be the CEO anyway, right? So how was it this experience?
No, I mean, I think I always surrounded myself with great mentors, because growing up, I didn't have, I mean, my family was great, but I didn't have role models business wise, and even in my
Yeah.
inner circle of friends, let's say, I don't have many entrepreneurs. So I had to build my network of people I really look up to and that I can see as mentors. So I always tapped into, always seeking for help, support, for someone that I can brainstorm, because I really think, you cannot do things on your own. And sometimes, not sometimes, many times, when you are the CEO, you feel quite alone because decisions are upon you. Of course, you can have a great team, you can have a great board of directors, but in the end, like the decision falls on you. So I think it's really important to build a good network around you of people that you can brainstorm with, that can give you some support. And I think as a woman, I mean, I was very lucky because my co-founders are very, very much, looking into diversity as a strength. And I never felt different in any way. I never felt discriminated in any way. On the contrary. So we always, looked at each other as equals. And that's, the culture that I try to infuse into Utrust. So if you look at the leadership team, it's very diverse, not only in terms of gender, but in terms of countries and skill set, and we pride ourselves upon that. But you're right, not many companies are are like that. And I think, the bro culture, it's very present in Web3, much more than in tech, much more than in fintech. It's a very, very male-dominated culture. Sometimes I'm on my own in many panels, in many events, as a woman. Um, that's changing, I have to say. But still, many companies are not paying attention to these topics. And it's a shame because, diversity really boosts productivity and creativity and revenue in the end. Um, but I think we still have a long time to go. Many years.
Yeah, that's true. There was one report that I have read, and it was researching for the asset managers, not for Web3, but for like venture capital and financial industry. Did you know that it was only 1% that of all asset managers constitute women and people of color? 1%. Well, I hope that since 2018 that has improved, because that's research is a little bit old, but I was a little bit surprised. I mean, 1%. So if it starts really like from the head, like once there is asset managers, then there is venture capital, right? And then there is the founders who are leading the companies. And I guess there is a lot of things to change. So what is, in your opinion, like, how can we really bring more diversity to, like, in general, like startup founders, but also like Web3?
Yeah. Wow, the 1% stat I didn't know. It's very, very low. I knew the stat about like the funding that goes to women-led projects, which is less than 2% from VCs, which is still nothing. And to me, like it's incredible that in 2023 we are still in this situation.
Yeah.
I think, the change starts from the top leadership that needs to understand the importance of diversity. And in my case, many times when we were recruiting for any position, even for C-levels, we would work with external companies and like very reputable companies that wouldn't even send me a CV of a woman. And therefore I was like, okay, I need to change this. And I had to go on my own, like attending events or reaching out to interesting profiles of women online as well. But this is not like, don't get me wrong, I don't believe in like the quotas. We need to have a certain percentage of women. We need to give equal opportunities for each job role opening. I want to see women and men. And then, whoever is the best candidate, of course, I will give the job to that person. But at least I want to start from the position where I have a pool of women to, tap into.
Yeah.
And, I think it's work that needs to be done proactively from the top to cascade that type of culture, because it's very easy to hire by association. I'm a white male tech person and I will hire someone similar to me. But really it's a work of understanding, what can someone else with a different background or gender or race or skills, bring to the company that can actually challenge my views. And that's, the
Yeah.
culture where people thrive, because in a culture where everyone is, the same and everyone thinks the same, there's never going to be enough innovation. So, there are no easy answers. Like it's a difficult work that needs to be done from the top. And we as women in the space, we need to promote this work. And it's not easy, because also many times I have quite a large following on Twitter, and I talk about different things from, Web3 to longevity to diversity, because I have many passions. And every time I talk about diversity, I have a lot of people challenging me, why are you spending time on this instead of doing this for the company? So I think, we need to change that mentality in Web3.
I know.
Yeah,
I have similar issues actually. Yeah, I mean, like once I start talking about diversity, I have many people that are also challenging me, like that is like, like that is not true. This is just like less women, like in general. But if we see like how many women actually start in the companies and how many end up with the funding, there is like a big gap, right? So there is a statistics, but I guess it's also many just live in the world where they don't see maybe this or don't experience. That's why it's a little bit difficult for them to understand that it exists. So I think that one of those things that we need to listen to each other and to bring more awareness of these issues that this exist and this is what it is. So people, once they're aware, they can take the action, right? So
Yeah.
that's would be amazing.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's really like for a woman, you need to work like twice more to get like half a reward? I've heard this like from many women actually, but I just would like to know like what is your opinion on that, your experience?
It's tricky, right? I think I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's more how women and men generally take opportunities and experience opportunities. And this is generalizing, of course, because there are men that don't do that and women that don't do that. But if you take 100% of the population and even people that I work with, I can see that as a recurring thing. And women are much more rational in the way they do things, even like in investing. So women will need to have most of the times like a lot of information before committing to something, or even before speaking or intervening in a conversation. They need to feel like they have all the information in place. They are reputable, knowledgeable, they know. While men are much more, gut instinct and feeling. And I think, they're much more risk adverse. And because of that, sometimes they take more risk and they take more opportunities. They will apply for jobs more than women. They will speak up more, even if they don't feel like they are experts in the field. And that's what creates this balance, I think. And I can see that definitely because I led many teams in many companies. It's very rare that a woman will ask for a raise. It's very common that a man will ask for a raise. So I think it's really like a different behavior, and we need to teach women how to be more confident, and that it's okay not to know 100% everything before taking a job, applying for a job, or speaking up, or it's totally okay. And I think that's the main thing. Um, I don't necessarily agree with that we need to work double. We just need to be bolder and work smarter.
Oh, wow, awesome advice. I think that it would be for many women that are listening to us right now. Yeah, so like what have been like your challenges like once you've been like a CEO? So there is any stories maybe that you could share?
Well, many challenges, I think. The first one was 1 month after I took the role, the pandemic came. And then it was like, wow, at the time we were all in Portugal. Almost everyone was in Portugal, going to the office, very much, great tech culture. We loved gathering in our office and brainstorming together. And then it was like, okay, how do we translate that into remote only now? And how do we give security to people? How do we make them feel that still, that everyone is included? And that was a very good challenge for me. And it took several months because it was about changing the company culture, the company organization. And in the end, that was great for us because we expanded our team internationally. And today we have people in Africa, we have people in Turkey, we have people like in very different places. And everyone feels included because we still have an office, but almost everything is remote. And people know that they need to create a knowledge base in Notion. Like Notion is our main tool for everything. And like everything you do needs to be there. Like you need to capture it so that everyone can go and consult it. And, we gather together weekly for informal and formal meetings. And yeah, I think that was the main challenge. And then, definitely the challenge of redefining like who is our main customer, who are we actually talking to, and pivoting into doing something different. So at the beginning, we only had a payment gateway. So a gateway,
Yeah.
it integrates into e-commerce. So we were only talking with e-commerce, online stores, and retails that wanted to integrate a gateway. But the market was not mature at the time. It's not even mature today. Very few retailers, even if they integrate a crypto payment gateway, they will not have a lot of transactions because we are very early stage. And then we understood that actually people that were using us, they needed a different solution. It was not integrated into online. It was a very easy invoicing or payment billing request, let's call it, where you can create an invoice, you can send it to anyone via email, WhatsApp, and the other party can pay. And that is true for freelancers, Web3 companies getting paid, paying their employees, remittances, people paying for real estate, for luxury. So we pivoted our business into our main niches. And I think that was the second largest challenge and milestone.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. And you led the company through M&A. I mean, the exit that like all the founders like are dreaming about. So can you share this experience? Because I think many people would learn from this experience. Like, how much time does it take for preparing? How do you find the strategic acquirer that will be aligned with your vision? I mean, I read a lot about your M&A, so I think that will be lots of things to share. Interesting
Yeah.
things.
Um, we actually didn't have the idea of wanting to sell the company at the beginning. So we were in a very good space. We went through a very good acceleration program in San Francisco. And basically, at the end of the accelerator program, there is a demo day, and then, you pitch to VCs, and we were about to raise a Series A. We had a lot of interest from even traditional VCs. However, I think our strong characteristic as founders was always looking into what can happen in the future and anticipating challenges. And I think, leaders anticipate, losers follow. And, that's always been our main motto. And we said, okay, there's going to be a huge bear market. We could not predict how huge. And then, everything happened last year. But we knew that something big was coming. And I think the best moment to sell a company is when you don't need to sell a company. And therefore, we started to signal our interest within our network into potentially doing an M&A. And we actually had interest from several parties. And I think that's the strongest position where you can be, because then you can be the one interviewing, the other companies and parties, and you can choose the one that it's mostly going to be aligned with your company culture, because it's not about the money. It's about who is the best company that can take our product and, take it to the next level and really help us. And so for us, it was a matter of anticipated what would have come in the market, and understanding that having support from a stronger player than us would have led us to a better success than staying on our own. And that's why we decided to do it. And actually, it took us a long time because we changed buyer. So we were selling to another company at the beginning, and through the due diligence process, we understood that it would not have been a good fit for us, and therefore we restarted the process. So it was a bit painful because it took almost a year. Like if you look at due diligence between the first company and the second one, it took us almost a year. And the due diligence process can be very heavy. And it takes a lot of time from the leadership team that, would have otherwise been allocated on business dev or marketing or product. And so it's painful. Like the process, it's very, very painful. It's long. It's gonna take a lot of and you have to be prepared, I think, psychologically, because it's gonna take a lot of your time and a lot of your resources, and you need to be in a place where you're really convinced that you want to go through it, because it doesn't even mean that you will conclude with a successful deal. That's what I would say.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting. But can you, many people don't know like what is like really due diligence and M&A. Can you just like disclose very like a few steps? How is it happening? What you need to show, and just for people to understand a little bit more of this process and why is it taking so much of time?
Yeah, sure. I think, it depends case by case, and each due diligence can be lighter or harder depending on, the deal and depending on the company. But usually how it works is that each company will have a legal team, either internal or external, representing them. And then, the company acquiring will do an in-depth due diligence on everything. So from finance to how you run security in the company, from ops processes to going into deeply into our P&L, to our business model, to how we monetize, to how we treat people, how we hire people, doing background checks on all the employees in the company. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a very long process because it looks into understanding the quality of your team, the quality of your product, and the quality of how you run your processes in the company. And particularly, it goes very deep into finance, operations, and product. Because of course the company acquiring needs to feel reassured that actually what you're doing is of course legit. The numbers that you're declaring are the actual numbers. There is potential. How you're running your processes, how you're running your product, what is your roadmap. So that's why it takes a very, very long time. And as CEO, you need to be included in everything, and you need to be part of everything.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of meetings, and there's a lot of processes, and there's a lot of data to be provided. And sometimes, as a startup, maybe you don't even have that data available, so you need to manually go and reconcile everything and all the numbers, and that's why it's very manual, and it's very long as a process.
Yeah, it is. It is. And so but you successfully been acquired right now. So why is this company? Why MultiverseX?
Yeah, we really loved MultiverseX. So previously their name was Elrond, recently rebranded into MultiverseX.
Yeah.
Because of the strength of their product team, and also because we saw a very good integration into long-term plans. So basically, MultiverseX has a layer 1 blockchain, has a decentralized exchange, has a decentralized app, and they were lacking a payment gateway and a payment ecosystem in there. So I think, the fit was perfect into what they wanted to develop for the future. And we could enhance, for example, our tokenomics, tapping into, what they were building on the app, on the exchange. So there were a lot of synergies product-wise and business-wise. And we saw a much better opportunity to grow with them rather than someone else or doing it on our own.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very important to have these alignments, right? And what about the team? So you are now part, like Utrust is a part of this group, right? So like the whole team works the same. Is there is a change from the processes perspective?
It's changing now, so I have to say, everyone in my network, all of my mentors and like people that I spoke with, they all said, don't expect after a merger for things to be great, because there are always many issues. And I have to be honest, it's been the same with us. So only now, so we were acquired in January last year. So only now we are starting to really look into how does this actually integrate? Because until now, I think we've been focused on still growing and expanding, but there hasn't been an official integration of the teams. And I'm not saying everything needs to be perfectly integrated into one team, but there hasn't been a lot of involvement into the overall being part of the umbrella company. So until now, we have operated as Utrust, quite as a separate brand. So only now things are unfolding and starting to, really move and change in a way that we will develop an integrated product. So we are rebranding into xMoney. We have, a phased rebranding and a phased launch of new products in synergy with MultiverseX. So that's all going to happen now between April and June this year, which is great, and it's very, very exciting. But just saying that, it didn't happen immediately, and like it took some time as well.
Yeah, yeah. And what is your trust today? What are the products that you're providing, and how is it like you see like in the future, considering that you've been acquired?
Yeah, so we have three main products. So we have the payment gateway, as I said, which is the first product we launched to market that integrates into e-commerce stores and allows merchants, retailers to receive fiat or crypto. So it's a crypto to fiat or crypto to crypto solution. The same thing happens in invoicing or billing request that I mentioned before. So creating an invoicing billing request that you can send to anyone and they can pay with crypto. That's where most of our volumes are happening. And then the third one is more of an OTC desk, let's call it, for very high valuable transactions where there is like a more white gloves approach into locking the exchange rate and providing a more personalized experience. So that happens, for example, many people are buying real estate with crypto, so then we would use that type of product. At the same time, as I said, we are looking into how do we integrate that into the overall vision of MultiverseX, and that's why it's being rebranded into xMoney. And xMoney will have a component of crypto and fiat as well. And how do we bring everything into one product? Also, the MultiverseX team has already launched X Portal, which is our super app. So in the super app, you have everything. So you have your crypto, you can, swap cryptocurrencies, you have your NFTs, but you also have your debit card. And on the card, you can convert your crypto into fiat and use it in the real world, let's say. And that's also one thing that we're working very close collaboration with MultiverseX to make it available all across Europe very, very soon. And other things that we will announce next month, actually, in May. So stay tuned.
Oh, okay, sounds awesome. Sounds awesome. So, and how is it like in general for the payments? How do you see like are you too excited about the space and like what do you see for the future?
Yeah, I'm actually I'm very I think fiat payments are not gonna disappear. So I think, we need to find a way to have a holistic view of the customer and to really provide the type of payment that each customer needs, depending on their profile, what they want to do, how they want to do it. And that's why I think, crypto will not replace fiat in the short term, but we need to have a solution that can holistically look into the buyer and holistically look into the seller and understanding, what does the buyer want to buy with and how does the seller wants to settle the payment, because sometimes it's a combination of crypto and fiat. And I imagine a future where you might get paid in the metaverse for something you did. You get paid in NFTs or crypto, and you can immediately, convert that into fiat, and then you can use your credit or debit card to buy whatever, like sneakers in a store you're passing by. So we need to, look at things holistically, and we need to provide to customers the best way to have everything in one place. And I think, sometimes people are too radical, like crypto is going to replace everything, or yeah, fiat is going to dominate everything. No, I think we live in a world where people need to have a choice, and even a choice between cryptocurrencies, because it's not everything is about Bitcoin or stable coins. Like, and we need to give, like, the more choice we have, the better. And the main thing to pay attention is, what is the experience? What is the user experience of using that product? It needs to be simple. It needs to be trustable. And that's why I think, building with a holistic view is the best thing we can do at this stage.
Oh, wow. And I know that you're also investing in Web3, right? So, what is your excitement right now in beer market?
Yeah. I have to say, in the last year, my investments have been predominantly in the longevity space. So longevity, health tech, female health tech, especially. So I'm still investing in Web3,
Okay.
in the Web3 economy, much less than before. Because right now, from the investment perspective, I'm more interested in everything that can prolong our health span, not the lifespan, but the health span. So, how many healthy years can we add into our life? So any project working into that field, longevity, regeneration, and female healthcare. And if I can do that by, putting my investments into female founders or underrepresented founders, even better.
Wow, this is very interesting turn. So, do you think that is the future for Sanja is in longevity, or like how do you see yourself in the 5 years? If you can, of course, like tell a little bit more about your dreams.
Yeah, I always said, like, I don't believe in like long-term plans. I believe in short-term plans. And because look at how everything changes in 1 year, like look at how AI is impacting our society and how quickly things are being developed. So I think, we never know each year how much technology will evolve and what are the things we can do. But definitely I am involved, and I will be involved in longevity and healthcare in my future. For sure, as an investor, maybe doing other things on my own. Let's see. But it's definitely one of the spaces that I'm looking more closely. And actually, a lot of people from crypto share the same interest. So a lot of people from Web3 are moving into the longevity space. And there are a lot of founders that are creating companies in the longevity space as well, which is super interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very good space. It's a very good space, and there is lots of also development as well that is needed to be done. So, and healthcare in general is a very promising area. Do you think that you will turn to your entrepreneurship skills and you will have another company one day?
Probably, yes. Probably.
Yeah, yeah. So you liked your experience, right?
Yeah, I think, once you create your own company and once you are an entrepreneur or once you are in the startup world, like it's very difficult to go back. Because I think, as founders, we have passion and we thrive in this sort of environment. And for me, like it's very exciting to see something growing from the beginning and like not having all the information, and actually like the uncertainty that goes with creating a company. For me, it's very it's a fuel like that sparks passion and interest. It's not for everyone because it's something that might create a lot of stress for other people. So I think you need to have a type of personality to be a founder, because there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of challenges. But if it's something that fuels and like sparks your interest, it's definitely not easy to go back then to saying like, okay, I will work for someone else or in another company. But who knows? I think there are so many opportunities now in the world that it's just a matter of choosing the best path.
Yeah, very open like question. Do you think that you can learn to be an entrepreneur or you need to be born entrepreneur?
It's a very good question. I think it really depends. But I think, some things you can definitely learn theoretically. However, if you don't have a predominant trait, as I was saying, of navigating uncertainty and being able to embrace that uncertainty and having that type of character that will thrive in a certain environment, I think it's going to be very, very difficult. But it also depends like on who are your co-founders, because if you are a diverse group of co-founders and maybe you are more conservative, that can work as well. If there is diversity in the type of co-founders that are leading a company, and then maybe even if you're not, let's say, predisposed for risk, you can accept it, and there can be balance with the other founders in the company. But I do believe you need to have certain traits that are intrinsic, that are already present there, to be a founder, to be an entrepreneur. Because if you don't have them, you can definitely still be an entrepreneur, but you're going to suffer a lot. You're not going to enjoy that process. And in the end, you're going to burn out, or, you're going to leave because you're not going to be happy. What do you think?
Oh, well, I think there is definitely, it's not, it really depends on your upbringing, I believe, because I came, for example, from, right, ex-Soviet, right, Union, and I think that there is a lot of people, that's why in our countries are very entrepreneurial, because there was like a lots of uncertainty, and basically growing up like in uncertainty, you're kind of like learning how to navigate that. I think this is already your mindset is more like preset. That's why I see lots of like very great entrepreneurs from the countries like Africa, for example, right? So there is like lots of very, very interesting people with lots of ideas, because they just don't have any other choice how to learn this kind of skills. Also, very interesting article regarding I read this like a couple of years ago, actually in 2016, I guess, even like it's already like a really long time ago. About the United States, like why United States is such an entrepreneurial country, because everyone was immigrant, and to be an immigrant you already need to have like a certain mindset, because you're just leaving everything behind. And especially like now it's much easier, because we have Skype, we have WhatsApp, we have all the tools to communicate with people, right? So we can just call to our like loved ones. But before, if you think about this, like once you like moving to another country, you're just leaving everything behind. And there is like no one that can support you, and there is like no support system. And actually what you said about being a CEO, you need to have a support system. And I think this is very interesting view actually on the like how you can navigate that as well, like all this uncertainty. Because usually once you are like in your comfortable environment, probably you have your family who supports you, right? So, and like once you're out there, it's completely different. So you've been also like actually the immigrant, right? And moving from one place to another one.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And I was thinking, like, what you said about Africa, like, if you look at the African market, like in 2017, there was only one unicorn. And today, I think there are more than 17, 18. And the population
Yeah.
is in Africa is very young, very entrepreneurial, like it's growing at a very rapid pace. And you're right, like I was at an event a couple of weeks ago, and there were people like Peter Diamandis and Tony Robbins, and one girl asked them, like, do you think that all founders have been screwed up in a certain way, either from their family or situation, because everyone is hungry to do things. And we were talking about it, and actually, if you look at the most successful people in the world, like they had a lot of challenges there, either because they were immigrants, or they were like escaping a war, or something in their life happened where they needed to take charge and like to react, and therefore they are hungry for that. And I think in your case, in my case, it's the same. um, we are immigrants as well, and like our families have been immigrants, and we had to restart from scratch. And that's why,
Yeah.
like, I'm not afraid
You
of that.
also escaped it from the war as well.
Yeah, and like one thing that my grandma used to say, I will never forget. She said, everything can be taken away from you except your brain. So make sure like you invest in your brain and your mind and your skills, because you can lose everything, but then you can rebuild everything. And really, it's true.
Oh my God, this is incredible, incredible phrase. And I think that we should really like already stop on this one because I think this is the best advice and the best like like to think about, like the thing to think about, right, that you need to invest in your brain. And yeah, my family also always said the same, like you need to invest in yourself and in your education, because this is what is the most important, and that's what would give you like the everything that you need to have. Well, I think was amazing talk, and very inspirational as well. And I think that there is many women that could look up to you and see the success stories. And I think that you are like one of those success stories that we really need to know about. And thank you. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Thank you. It's been really a pleasure and really fun.